Good morning, everyone, and allow me to introduce Dr. Sanjeeva Pandey, who is right now a Forestry Advisor at Forest Plus 2.0 program supported by USAID. He's been a forest officer with the Himachal Forest Department for over 30 years, and to me, when I met him 20 years back, he was working in the Great Himalayan National Park and working a lot with the communities, which was a very interesting situation for me because I hadn't been exposed to much of this kind of work as a student. So his areas of expertise are forest ecosystems and the roles of government, non-government, and community organizations in their management, relationships between forest and wildlife and communities, and a very fascinating thing what he has written, and I hope he will discuss more about it, is engaging and transforming natural resource bureaucracies. And he has worked a lot as well in promoting the involvement of women and poor in conservation. And you can see what he means when I found this line in his CV, which says that I loved working for biodiversity conservation at the Great Himalayan National Park and her inscription as a World Heritage Site in 2014. He did his PhD in 2013 on assessment of alternate livelihood development as a strategy for long-term conservation of biodiversity at the Great Himalayan National Park. So I welcome Sanjeeva ji to WCS India Talks, and I'm sure all of us will learn a lot about how we can learn more about collaborative management. So welcome ji.
So thank you, Vidya. Good morning to everyone. This will be really great to present my work on ecosystem approach to forest management, which I have undertaken here in this Forest Plus 2.0 program. That is with the support of USAID. And so I go ahead with my talk. Is it okay?
Yes, Chief.
Okay then. So this is all about ecosystem approach, and ecosystem approach is a very ancient thing, in fact, but at the moment we have started talking about it, like for last maybe 30-40 years. So that will be seen here. And my talk is in 7 parts, and these are the 7 parts, and I will be taking up them one by one. This is part number 1, and that is actually a background. What I'll be doing, I will not read or I will not speak, whatsoever written on my screen. What I will do, I will do it on my own way, in the sense that only the important points I'll be talking. So here, let me say that this is actually US-India MOU. And plus, that is actually the most important thing, PL-US, which is here in blue. So that is actually Partnership of Land Use Sciences. So that is a technical assistance program. So what we do here in this particular project, and that is how I like it most, that we are not assisting states with money for executing the program. We are just giving them technical assistance. And there are 3 objectives. One is to strengthen ecosystem-based management. Second is ecosystem services, those things to be factored in. And third one is to provide economic opportunities for improved landscape management. So what we have done here, we have developed 3 working plans, working plans in 3 different landscapes of Bihar, which is Gaya Forest Division, Telangana, which is Medak Forest Division, and Thiruvananthapuram is in Kerala Forest Division. And then we have also developed a technical suite which supports actually EAFM. So here, let me start with my presentation on EAFM. And the most basic thing out here is that is actually biodiversity. Biodiversity that is fundamental to the functioning of an ecosystem, and it is basis of all the ecosystem approach to forest management whatsoever we talk about, and all the functioning ecosystems on our planet. They are actually lifeblood. They are actually lifeblood of our of the living beings here. So forest biodiversity is the most important thing out here, and so is the forest ecosystem. That and this is actually, as we know from the convention, that evolutionary processes, the forests have evolved over millions of years, and that is the most important thing. And it is driven by ecological forces such as climate, fire, competition over many hundreds and thousands of years. And then that has caused actually diversity of forest ecosystems. Two things which we have read in our basic books in maybe graduation, that is actually artificial and natural ecosystems. Artificial ecosystems are all our, urban areas or agriculture, all these things which are which we keep on doing, anthropogenically. And then the other thing is natural. These are our forests, such forests which are still of, primeval nature. That means which have not been worked. And all these forest ecosystems, they are dominated by trees and consist of biologically integrated communities. The most important thing is the one which I have written in yellow, and that is an ecosystem's biogeochemistry that is based on evolutionary processes over millions of years, and that makes the whole difference. And we are going to talk about it. Scientists from world over, they have come together and they have classified the ecosystem services of the world in 4 parts, and that we should all know: provisioning, regulating, cultural and supporting. That is actually under Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Program in 2005. And that is actually, it emphasizes only one thing, and that one thing is interconnectivity. Interconnectivity is the most important thing, and the nature is the best place where we can see, though we have to see it in our homes, in our colleges, in our universities, in our organizations, everywhere. But this is what we see in nature, and that is what counts, And this is actually example of, I have already told you the 3 places, and there these are kind of ecosystem services like provisioning from Thiruvananthapuram. You have lots of rivers over there, in Gaya also, in Medak also, regulating air quality, carbon sequestration. Cultural is actually all our sacred groves, etc. And supporting is again, like your nutrition cycles and all. So these are actually biodiversity and ecosystem services. We have to take care of them. And there are 5 tenets of biodiversity, which we should know. And world over, good work is going on, especially in United States of America. So they are actually what they are doing. So they have kind of 5 principles or tenets of biodiversity. In case it is native vegetation, then it has greater capacity to provide ecosystem services. That is kind of a thing which is being realized at the moment. Second is actually biological insurance. That means in case you are conserving, like tiger, you are conserving the whole ecosystem. So that kind of a thing. You are saving a pangolin. That means you are trying to make yourself safe from zoonotic disease like corona, those kind of things. Third is your biodiverse systems. That is, on average, it can store more carbon and do so more reliably. And fourth is biodiversity is multidimensional, beginning right from those evolutionary things. Fifth is in case we really want to have more number of ecosystem services, then we have to have more number of local species. And in case we don't have that, then what happens? That is in blue out here. Introduction of these many exotics, what they are doing, they are causing collapse of the ecosystem. All the pollution, that is air pollution, your water pollution, all these things, why they are happening? Because we are going away from biodiversity. We are going away from the naturalness of our planet Earth. And it is scientifically proved that the extinctions of native species in forest ecosystems, they cause a cascade of other extinctions, accelerating the rate of community change. And then, as I have said, if we keep on losing species, eventually the ecosystems, they collapse. And deforestation, degradation, these are activities of today's forests. No evolutionary speciation will take place in these kind of things. Only it will accelerate the extinction rate. So that is actually now part 3, which is the ecosystem EAFM. And as we have incorporated in the 3 working plans, which I have already talked, what is a working plan? That is a tool to support forest division level management. And that there we have helped these 3 states by putting up this example. We have provided them assistance and working plans. They help our managers to evaluate the status of resources of forest division and determine appropriate forest management prescriptions for the future. So that is actually a working plan in case some of us who are present and listening to this talk, they do not know much about it. Then ecosystem, what is that? That means a dynamic complex of all these things. Let me say 2 things. One is a structure, another one is function. A structure is all about your plant community, animal community, and function is what we get as ecosystem services, And then what is ecosystem approach? That is actually a strategy for integrated management. This everybody should know. Integrated management of 3 things. What are they? Land, water, and living resources that promotes conservation and sustainable use and equitable way. All these things on which research is going on for a long, long time, especially under CBD, and they have come out with these things like 12 principles and 5 operational things. First is like functions and processes that includes conservation ecosystem services. These are the principles, which are actually 12 of them. Work within ecosystems limits, balance, use, and conservation. Benefit sharing with the 2 principles there are consider economic factors, assess effects of decision on others. Adaptive management, they include 2 principles of look well ahead in future and work with inevitable change. Scale is key, work at right geographic and time scale. Like your forest division or whatsoever you have out here. Decentralize when possible, and intersectoral cooperation, which is very, very important for community involvement. These kind of principles, they are there and we should all know them. So these are actually things which FAO has been promoting something known as thematic elements of sustainable. And out of those thematic elements, 7 of them have been included in our working plan, and thereby on your right side I can show you these 7 things. They are actually extent of forest resources, and in the bracket is written the number of chapter where it is it is to be included in a working plan. So 7 of them. Biological diversity, that is actually for the first chance ever that a chapter on biological diversity has been included in forest working plan. And it was a pity that it was never there before, because in forestry, we never considered, biodiversity as such, though we all know where is biodiversity. Biodiversity is in forest, so even in MOEFCC, there is a division, and that division is between forestry and biodiversity. Biodiversity, it has a separate secretary over there. For forestry, we have a DGF and secretary, and these kind of things are there. So these are all hodgepodge kind of things, and we need to put them something, okay in future. So, but one thing which has come out from ministry that is very good, that is National Working Plan Code. And like I have said, this is for the first chance that a National Working Plan Code in 2014, which is currently functional, that has included a chapter on biodiversity conservation. And this has come out, of a process called Bhopal process that is based on those FAO directives and tenets, So this is what we are very happy with, that at least some work has started on the government side. So ecosystem services, how do we go about it? So we have to do their assessment and valuation. For assessment, I will just say this much, we have to see how much of carbon sequestration, like our Prime Minister has been saying in places like in Paris Agreement commitment also, that 2.5 to 3 billion tons of additional carbon dioxide equivalent to 2030 will be sequestered. All these kind of things, so they have to be inclusive of study of ecosystem services. need for valuation, that is actually need to be understood from qualitative, ethical, and normative standpoints, and that are actually set up by society. And my colleague actually from Forest Plus is also there on this talk, that is Dr. Kinsuk Mitra, and he has done a lot of work on this particular thing. But again, I mean, we have to see that in case we can make our public representatives as well as public convinced on these valuation things, only then they are actually of any use. So this is one example that I'm putting up here, that is about water. What kind of, you see millions of rupees of water that forests are producing, and that is actually one ecosystem service, and that comes out of the valuation exercise. So this is one example which has been incorporated in chapter number 5 of part 1 of Gaya Forest Working Plan. Let me come to now part 4, that is actually, this is what we will be talking about, that is how EAFM and close to nature forestry is, they are related, So this was in 1950, I mean, to trace the origin of close to nature forestry in Germany, that they had a group and based on some principles. And they also had around that time a group called Pro Silva in Europe. And in 1989, they also accepted lots of principles of close to nature forestry. 4 of them were very important that I have named here: conservation of ecosystems, protection of soil and climate, and production of timber and other products, as well as recreation, amenity, and cultural aspects. So these are kind of things, but that was also, I mean, we have to put emphasis on uneven aged silviculture, which is actually selection system, which is very close to nature forestry. So what we are doing here, how do we translate as foresters on the ground? That is, we try to mimic nature, biodiverse and uneven age forests. Those kind of forests have to be planted. For example, in our forest nurseries, the seed has to come, from a very, very known genetic source and native species, Otherwise, we are seeing a lot of spurious seed nowadays in forestry. More biodiversity means more ecosystem services. That is kind of a slogan that all of us, we should remember. I'll be talking about this more in coming slides. Setting clear goals is very, very important out here, like to maintain viable populations of all native species, and maintain evolutionary and ecological processes, which are like hydrological processes or nutrient cycles, manage over periods of time enough to maintain the evolutionary potential of species and ecosystems, accommodate human use, and represent within PAs, our protected area system, all native ecosystem types across their natural range of variation. So this is one of the most important slides of this presentation, because Madam Vidya has given me some task and I have tried to respond here on that. And that is actually about society and how we talk about, gender sensitivity in our working plans. So this is so to say that poor people, in case like there is a very, very important correlation between poverty and biodiversity. All those people who are well off, they have moved away from the forest areas. They have come to the road heads, and they have set up some sort of businesses over there. But the poor people, they are left behind, and they are the ones who are depending on our forest. So poor people, they do not have any voice. They do not have any choice. That means they do not have any decision-making power, even if they are part of any panchayat, so to say. So mostly these are the women actually, and who are actually from the poor households, and they are working with water, fodder, and fuel wood. And these are kind of things which we want to conserve. In case you see most of the mountain societies, or you see most of the societies in tribal areas, so there you will find these are the kind of things that women are doing. And women, because of the patriarchal nature of society, they are poorest of the poor in our rural settings. human wildlife conflict and environmental justice. That is yet another thing which I have been asked to speak, in fact, during this, because I have done some work on this in Great Van National Park. And there only one thing which we have to understand, that these are actually the poor local people who have to face the brunt of the wild animals. So poor people, poor villagers, they show tolerance to the crop damaging bear or livestock lifting leopard, as their access to administration is very, very limited. Just see the diagram on the right side and see these things in orangish kind of thing. There are three things: eco restoration, community, and forest protection. In case we can do these three things, and we have tried to incorporate all these three in our working plans of Gaya, Medak, and Thiruvananthapuram, then we can do a lot of things with our forest. You do nice forest protection with the help of community, and you do lots of eco restoration, which involves everything, which involves your plantation, your ANR, assisted natural regeneration, your soil and water conservation, everything that comes under eco restoration. So if you can do that, so then your joint forest management will be okay, and you will be able to have ecosystem services based forest management. So often one question is asked that I have tried to respond here, that how we are relating close to nature forestry to production forestry. For that, we will have to do lots of remodeling, like changing the structure, the physical aspect of habitat, soil and moisture conservation. Lots of things have changed because of invasion of all these things called eucalyptus or wattles or whatsoever you have. Yeah. Remodeling, changing the chemical aspect on nutrition and nutrients and toxicity, use of indigenous species to do this, replacing missing species. Actually, we all know that the sal and teak, they have their associates. Number of books have been written on that, but in case you go to the field, they are missing. How to bring these associates back. I'll be talking about it more in my next few slides. And removal of exotics, that we have to do on a big scale. In Himachal, I can give you an example that we were spending something like 19 to 25 crore rupees a year, just to remove lantana and bring back some local species over there. So that is the kind of scale on which we have been working. Number fifth part, that is eco restoration, and that is all these things we should know about close to nature forestry. So in case we can do this, we can do our close to nature forestry. Watershed is the major thing where we have to do this, and that may be one unit, and we have to understand land management for ecosystem services, as there is continued forest loss and an ever increasing human population. So those kind of things in a watershed can be very, very useful to understand. Watershed restoration, then it has to be very adaptive, comprehensive. It has to seek balance, in fact, between healthy ecological, economic, and cultural aspects. Watershed management has to serve to integrate planning for land and water. It takes into account both ground and surface water flow, and it plans for interaction of water, plant, all those things which are there in our watershed. So again, let me re-emphasize this. It is kind of a repetition, but a very, very knowing repetition, that prescription for ecological restoration in the three working plans, they are for mimicking nature. They are for bringing back the original biodiversity. They are for, bringing a forest officer back to close to nature forestry. And we should acknowledge that still our knowledge of ecosystem processes, it is very, very imperfect. How nature works, that is a very, very comprehensive thing. I do not know how many thousands of years the human brain will take to fathom that. Our capacity to predict ecological succession, that is also very, very limited. But restoration is strategy for enhancing ecosystem services that has been incorporated in all the three working plans. And here are some of the examples. restoration strategy. This is example from Dungeshwari, that is actually our Gaya landscape. And what we are trying to say that we have to identify drivers of change, like your heavy grazing, exploitation, etc. Passive treatment is actually that we try to, provide kind of ANR sort of a thing. And active is that we bring in, artificial regeneration, in the sense that plants raised in the nursery, them we bring in. Number two is restoration strategy for enhancing for this, that is close to nature eco restoration, that create multiple age and multiple species plantations, use native species, encourage biodiversity, and plant understory as well. This is a slide from a very, very nice place that we have been working, that is Punathapura forest range in Thiruvananthapuram. Conversions, in fact, that is very important for the close to nature. And here what has happened, let me give you one small thing out here, but that's a very big one, in fact, that the government of Kerala has now a policy which aims at this particular thing, which we have incorporated in our working plan. That time we were foreseeing this thing coming with the help of my colleagues in Kerala Forest Department, and that is actually your conversion plantation working circle. So this conversion plantation working circle, what is it doing? It is changing actually all those eucalyptus plantations or wattles into the ecological, local ecologically sound plantations of indigenous species. Sorry. Then I have requested Dr. Osri to be on my presentation. Hopefully he's listening to this, and these are actually coming from him only, and these are learnings from forest restoration experiment in the Western Ghats, and that is actually experiments what he has undertaken, and his team. He's part of a team of these kind of experiments over there, whereby you can see that restored sites are still a long way, but they have been restored. But we cannot say as policy maker that they should resemble undisturbed forest in form and function. It should be reiterated that it is wrong to assume that deforestation of existing forests can be effectively compensated through reforestation or forest restoration. So this is very, very important, and we have to let our policymakers know about it. This is the example where Dr. Osri, he has been working and his team is there. And this is actually 2004, you can see in Valparai Plateau in Western Ghats. All the researchers, all the forest officers, all the scientists working involved with this kind of a thing close to nature, they should go and see this. I'm going to give you some more examples, that these are kind of examples which are existing in our own country, So what is happening in 2004 and what has happened in 2020, and the area is coming up, but we should always be at our caution that this may not be, equivalent to a primeval forest. And then this is the last one, that in case we are doing this, then large mammals and birds, they disperse seeds of some of the highest carbon storing trees and are therefore likely to have a positive impact on carbon storage. A message for manager and policymaker from this work is that we need to adopt more holistic approaches to wildlife conservation and climate change mitigation. That is, wildlife conservation needs to be recognized as a necessity for and not merely a byproduct of climate change mitigation. So these are kind of intricacies of what I'm trying to say out here. Eco-restoration, so that removal of exotic is very, very important. And native biodiversity versus alien species. Here, the local ecology actually, it is often threatened because of the alien species. So these are kind of references we can use, and these are big examples from our country, and as well as international examples. Like you see Delhi Ridge, you see Chandigarh, Shivaliks, Goa, your Karnataka, even in, I believe in Kerala also, down up to there, that place. We have lots of lantana, we have lots of Eusenia leucocephala, eucalyptus. I mean, ubiquitous it has become, yeah. So exotic poplars, what all it is doing over there, you know, it has virtually invaded our invaded our local species. The High Court of J&K has issued an order in 2014 to remove all the Russian poplars introduced there from the Kashmir Valley. You know why? Because it was causing a very bad sort of pulmonary disease among humans. Madras High Court, it is facilitating the concept of restoration of Shola forest. Like it is telling you, okay, you try to remove all those things which are exotic over there. International examples out here, not just trees. This is actually name of a paper, The Politics of Jacaranda, Eucalyptus and Hyacinth in Africa. You just see how much they are trying to remove all these, even the last tree of Jacaranda, they are trying to remove, you know, and we see that in our PWD plantation in India, we are promoting Jacaranda. So sad. So Australia actually declares war on cats, and it has been planning to kill 2 million, though it has been registered quite a lot. But the thing is, these cats, they are responsible for virtual removal of something like 20 of their lower marsupials. Lower means smaller marsupials in their country, you know. So that is what it is doing. This is another very good, very fine example from the landscape where we are working in Medak. And there what Forest Department has done, that it has removed the old plantation of eucalyptus, and you can see you know, number of these local species which the area has been planted with. So this is what we are looking in close to nature forestry, and this is what I have been talking to you about Kerala, you know, plantation conversion working circle. And this can be, you know, two things can be there. One is that Kerala Forest Department is expecting something like maybe 90 to 100 crore rupees in a year. That much of plantation is there by removal of the exotics. And at the same time, they can replant this with their ecologically viable species. So these are kind of things. See, the similar things we have. So these are prescriptions we have given for Medak and even for Gaya. For Gaya, what we are trying to do, we are trying to put emphasis on planting, because there is a lot of degradation and there are hardly any trees left for felling. So these are kind of things which we are doing there. So a system, how can we incorporate all these things in our management planning? So these are like baseline surveys can be there, identification, quantification, and valuation can be there, baseline assessment of ecosystem services can be there, and then stocks and flows. Stocks, what kind of stocks of forest is there, flows, what kind of ecosystem services they are flowing from there. Then step number 3, identification of people who get benefited out of this, and then selection of high priority ecosystem services, carbon storage, etc., etc. So proposed prescriptions in part 2 of working plan following the above 4 steps. So this is actually what we have done for our working plan, which may not be useful for many of the participants of today, but people who are coming from forestry background, or even the donors who may be there. I have invited some of them also for this, and I think Vidya has also invited. So if they can follow this, I mean, just have a look at it. So, but EAFM is the most important thing, to which all these things which we have developed under Forest Plus 2.0, they are kind of supporting. So this is about valuation. I have already talked about it. And this is for those people. Vidya has been asking me about researchers. So these are kind of things which we are looking at, you know. And our FRIs, at least I have seen there, I have had a peep over there, I have looked over there. I'm not seeing much on that let's work on native vegetation, you know, and let us show how scientifically they have greater capacity to provide ecosystem services. How? it has to be proved in the field. Biological insurance, in case we are doing this, we have to have, researchers working on this. Biodiverse systems, on an average, in case they are doing so, then let us show it. For temperate zones, I know in America and in other countries, there are a lot of work nowadays going on, but not for so much work on tropical, so let us work on that, on all these aspects, and then for a forest officer, that is the right side of it. And that is actually, we have to have seeds from genetic source, known genetic source for our plantations. We have to establish seed production areas of native species in a forest division or range. We have to raise tall seedlings in the forest nurseries. We have to do plantation of tall seedlings of native species in the field. Then how a researcher and forest department, they can come together. If it is a good work done by researchers, that can easily, set up connectivity with the foresters. That is my belief, because I do believe not all the foresters are, full of wisdom, and not all of them are bad also. And same thing is true for researchers or scientists as well. There is a shortage of research work on EAFM in our FRIs. So an organization like Vidya's, like WCS India, it has credibility also, and it has credibility to undertake quality research work. So I can always say, let there be good research work. NCF is already doing very fine research work. Dr. Osri is a great example, and his colleagues, so they are already there. So this is to kind of sum up the whole thing, that let us remember that functioning ecosystems are lifeblood of our planet. With the specific forest ecosystems, the maintenance of ecological processes, that is all dependent upon maintenance of their biological diversity. How much biological diversity is there? And then these three things I have emphasized all through: community participation, that must be for two things: eco-restoration and forest and wildlife protection. And then these are names which I could collect on EAFM, whosoever is working in our country, like Forest Plus. We are working here. Dr. Ishad Khan, my Guruji on this. Mr. Jakati is working. Pramod Krishnan has joined us. Abhishek from Gaya Forest Division has joined us. Anand Osri, I mean, he is a great scientist over there. T.R. Shankar Raman, nowadays you should read his articles in the Hindu, in newspaper, mostly in Sunday supplements. Divya is the team member over there, and Vaibhav Chaturvedi, who has been working with me in Forest Plus 2.0. So these are kind of people who are there, but we are very few at the moment in this country. So as a conclusion, let EAFM close to Nature Forestry be part of curriculum of all our research institutions, all our forest schools, or our colleges in India. We have to revise National Working Plan accordingly. Once again, once in 10 years it is revised. So it is due in 2024 now for revision. Let us do it very nicely. It is intended that Government of India and other stakeholders would ensure that ecosystem services are factored in, excuse me, management of forest landscapes, incorporated in forest working plans, and become part of economic opportunities and improvement of landscape management. So, okay, so this is what I had to say. Over to you, Vidya.
Thank you so much, Pandeyji, for this.